Yeah, hi everybody, and welcome to a talk about the different options that you have to monetize your Flutter app. But let's start with a short poll. Please raise your hand if you're already using any kind of monetization in your app. Okay, this is only a few of you. So nice, then hopefully we can give you a good overview how you can monetize your app and what packages are there to utilize that in the Flutter ecosystem. So hi again, my name is Joachim, or Jojo, as Petra will call me, and I work as a Flutter developer for the 4Pix, on the 4Pix one-word puzzle game for Lotum, and I'm also a co-host of the German podcast Programmierbar. And yeah, maybe we just do another short poll. How many of you are German-speaking here in the audience? Oh, a lot of you, that's nice. And then the next question, just for iteration, how many of you do know the Programmierbar podcast? Not so many as German speakers or German-speaking people. So yeah, we have definitely room to improve there. You should definitely check it out because it's a very cool podcast, and we do have several deep dive episodes about Flutter, and we try to cover all the important news that you have for the whole web and app development ecosystem. So yeah, that's really nice that you have all this in common. And I will hand out over to Petra, and she will do the next part.
Yes, hi everyone, also from me. My name is Petra and I'm also a Flutter developer on the 4Pix One Word team. Whoops, a bit loud. And yeah, that's basically everything you need to know about me. So let's jump into app monetization. And when looking into app monetization, we have several different options to monetize your app. And while developing our game 4Pix One Word, we tried out different approaches for app monetization that we want to share with you today. So here you can see the topics that we will cover today. We will talk about paid apps, in-app purchases, advertising, and also mobile attribution. But let's start with the most obvious way to monetize your app, which is to publish it as a paid app to the App Store or Play Store. So the most common distribution channels are Google Play and the Apple App Store. There are also other app stores but they do not have nearly the same volume as these two. And only a fraction of the apps in the Play Store and the App Store are actually paid apps, because the problem is that you have to convince your users to pay for an app upfront before they even experienced it. So an alternative to achieve much higher install rates would be to publish your app as a freemium app that uses in-app purchases, subscriptions, or advertising for monetization. This allows the customers to use your app at no cost, and with the option to subscribe if they want to enhance their experience or engage with your app more deeply. And the free experience also lowers the barriers to try an app, and people may be more inclined to invest in paid features later on after they have time to enjoy and experience your app. And yeah, that's what we'll be talking about now. So Yo-Yo will start about in-app purchases.
Right, so the first option that you have when you want to go for a freemium revenue model is to provide in-app purchases and subscriptions. In-app purchases are any fee to the additional download cost of the app. With in-app purchases, you can let your users buy additional features, content, or services. For in-app purchases, you have to use a billing system of the specific store from which the user downloaded your app. In most cases, there will be Google Play or the Apple App Store. At the moment, there are different legislational procedures ongoing to open platforms for alternative payment systems. For example, this is already possible in South Korea or India or in the Netherlands for dating apps, but probably this will also be possible in the European Union from next year on, when the Digital Market Act become effective in its current form. But there are some companies really working against that to make that happen. We will see how it works out in the end. Let's have a look of the kind of in-app purchases that you can integrate into your app. At first, you have consumables and non-consumables that represent single purchases that the user can perform on your app. A consumable is an in-app purchase that become depleted as the user uses them. After using all entities of a consumable, the user must purchase another consumable to get the same benefits. For example, this could be extra lives or in-app currency for a gaming app. Non-consumables, on the other hand, are in-app purchases that become permanently available to the user after he has bought them on your app. Non-consumable products often represent premium features like access to additional content or in a gaming app, or the new must-have filter in your favorite photo app. Then you also have subscriptions, and that gives your users a more permanent access to additional features. Here you have you could either offer auto-renewable subscriptions, where the users are automatically charged every pay period for the charge every paper until they cancel subscription on their own. A monthly subscription for example, a subscription to a music streaming platform. And you can also offer non-renewing subscriptions that can be used to provide additional content or service only for a limited time or period. Once a non-renewing subscription concludes, your users will have to purchase the same subscription again to retain access to the same functionality. An example for this could be a monthly season pass in a gaming app or special in-game content. With all this legislational pressure to open app stores for alternative payment systems, Apple introduced a small business program in January 2021. And with this change, you will only have to give Apple a 30% share of your revenue. When your annual revenue in the previous calendar year was below $1 million or exceeds $1 million, then you have to pay the higher share. If your average revenue is below that threshold, you can apply for that program, in which Apple's share is reduced to 15%. So you have a net revenue of 85% when you're selling consumable or non-consumable products in your app. For auto-renewable subscriptions, you will have the reduced net revenue of 70% for the first year, and it increases to the 85% net revenue for all subsequent years that your subscription is running. Also, the Google Play Store changed the service fee in July 2021, but the revenue distribution there is a little bit better for you as a developer. With Google Play, you will get an 85% share for the first $1 million that you earn in each year. And as soon as you exceed that annual revenue, Google will receive a 30% share, and you only get the 70% share of this additional revenue that you make above that 1 million. But probably you all don't have to bother about it because after the numbers of Google, only 1% of all publishers really reach that level of $1 million. For subscriptions, Google is always giving you the higher share of 85%, regardless of the total revenue that you earned with them. The management of consumables and non-consumables are very easy to set up in the Apple ecosystem. They can be found on the App Store Connect in the In-App Purchases tab in the Features section. There you can create or edit consumables or non-consumable products and set up a price schedule, how much your product will cost in the different regions that you target with the app. The Apple App Store will automatically convert all the local base price to the region's currency, but it's also good to make small adaptations to that price to really reflect on the purchasing power and on the targeted region that you are addressing. You have to give your product a unique ID, and you will need that later on to resolve your product in your app and combine it with the corresponding purchase items that you want to display to the user. All changes that you make to in-app purchases will be verified on the next app review. The management of subscription is performed in the subscription section of App Store Connect, and here you can also create or edit existing subscriptions. What you can do here is to define multiple subscription groups if you want to give the user the possibility to subscribe to different features of your app separately. For example, there could be different streaming channels of an app where you can watch videos or consume some special content. But for every group, you can define multiple subscription plans. And that means that you can offer different subscriptions for different time periods, depending on what kind of subscription the user is interested in. And once this subscription is activated, the user cannot choose another subscription of this group. What you can also do is that you provide introductory and promotional offers, like a free or discounted trial when the user can try out the benefit of the subscription before he really purchases it. In the Google Play console, you'll find the management and consumables and non-consumables in the In-App Products tab of the Monetize section, and the interface is quite similar to what you will see in App Store Connect. You must also provide a unique product ID, and you can use pricing templates to adapt your base price to the different regions that you target your app. Your in-app purchase products need to be reviewed on the next app release before they really become available to your users. The management of auto-renewable and non-renewing subscriptions is also under the Subscriptions tab of the Monetize section, and the subscription model is also quite similar to what you have on the Apple side, only the wording differs a little bit. A subscription group is called here subscription, And you can also define multiple subscriptions to match the different subscribable products of your app. A subscription can have multiple base plans, which provide the possibility to offer the same subscription with different time periods. And you can also define the subscription offers, where you can add introductory or promotional variants of your subscription. To integrate all this in your Flutter app, you can use in a purchase package. And this is developed and maintained by the Flutter community. The in-app purchase package will give you a unified API to handle in-app products that you define in the App Store. And it provides also platform-specific APIs for the Apple Store Kit and the Android billing client. At first, you need to define a catalog of products in your app. And the simplest form, you can just use an enumeration that contains all the available products. And maybe this model needs some kind of mapping of the internal name that you have in your code to the product ID that you see in the specific store. Then you can load the product price information from the store by querying the query product details method of the inner purchase instance. There might be the case where not all the requested products are retrieved because you have restricted some of your products to a certain regions. And in this case, you probably want to handle this error, and you can do that by just checking the corresponding field on the returned list. You will need this received list of products later on, so it's good to keep that around to have it available for usage in the next code. What you can do next with this list of retrieved products to give the users the possibility to purchase product. For this, it is necessary to differentiate between consumables and non-consumables in your catalog. So you will need some kind of lag or some kind of differentiation. What is really something that will stick with the user and what is something that he can use once. Because you have to call the corresponding consumable functions on the app in a purchase instance. And calling this method will only start the purchase flow. Everything else, all the other updates of the purchase status are obtained by listening to the purchase stream of the inner purchase instance. So each status update will emit a list of purchase details that you can iterate over to get the status of each purchase that is currently running and in process. The status of each purchase can either be an error, which is probably what you want to handle in some form and bring up a corresponding dialog to the user, or it can be purchased or restored, in which you want to verify the purchase and deliver it to the user. The restored status can occur if you have triggered the restoration of previously bought non-consumables by calling the restore purchases method, which is recommended that you trigger it every time the app starts to really get all the purchases that are maybe in the system, in the App Store, that are also applied to the app, and the user has the same access to its features. After you have consumed the purchase, it's also necessary to complete it, but we will look at this later on. What is really important is that you want to prevent fraud, because it's recommended that you verify the platform-specific payment receipts that you get in this purchase details to ensure that the payment has really been fulfilled against the App Store. Payment will definitely also work without this verification, but you cannot rule out for sure if the payment receipt was not tampered in the meantime. Especially when you offer very valuable product bundles, you want to make sure that the purchase is valid and that you don't give the user any functionality of your app for free. On iOS, you can do it by verifying the payment locally, and you do that by decoding and validating the payment receipt as a PKS7 container. You have two areas in that purchase details, and the local one is that you take into account when you do the local verification. But we must say, for both platforms, it's really recommended that you make the verification of your payments received on the back end, because it's very difficult for malicious users to tamper with the server-side verification. And especially if your application code was reverse engineered and manipulated, it can be that a user can simulate a successful purchase. And this is something that you can check and validate on the server side. And you can also prevent replay attacks by storing and checking all the duplicate transactions in your backend side. And as I mentioned before, it's really important to complete the purchase after verifying and delivering it, because when you don't complete the purchase, it is not marked as finalized on the App Store, and it will get refunded to the user after 3 days. One special case that you have to take into account is when you want to complete the purchase of a consumable product on Android, you have to call a special method on the in-app purchase Android platform edition that is called consume purchase. And this information is some way hidden in the changelog of the in-app purchase package. So we were running our app for some weeks or days without that additional feature, we're wondering why the buying of consumable product was not really completed successfully on Android. In all other cases, you can just finalize the purchase by calling the complete purchase method of that in a purchase instance. So let's see what best practices we can give you for applying monetization for your inner products. So what we figured out that it's very good to run various price experiments to optimize the utilization rate of inner products. And the Google Play Console has a very good support for running A/B tests, for finding the right price for your inner product for different regions. And what you should always try to do is offer valuable bundles to your users. So something, especially in a mobile game, it is important that the bundles provide a real benefit to the user. That means something that is really hard to achieve in the game and that the user is really flourishing too. What has also proven in the industry is that you should always provide a very expensive product in your shop, because you don't expect that the user really expects or that the user really buys those products, but it makes all the other offers that you have in your shop much more attractive if it has something to see there what is really not going to be something valuable and too expensive for them. And also something a lot of apps are pushing towards nowadays is that you manage to establish some kind of subscription model, because this will give you a constant stream of revenue coming from your app for the next decade. Besides in-app purchases, you can also use advertising to monetize your app. And Petra will tell you more about it now.
Thank you, Jojo. There are several different forms of advertising, and we would like to briefly go through the most popular ones. So a rather classic form of advertising would be banners. As you can see here in the example on the bottom of our guest page in our 4pix1 word game. So banners are basically rectangular image, graphic or text ads that have a permanent spot within your app's UI, and they are refreshed after a certain amount of time. Another advertising format typically found in apps are interstitials. Those are full screen ads that cover the whole screen of your app. And to close, you have to either complete a task, wait a time limit, or hit a close button. And this fits perfectly in a natural pause in your app. For example, when the user completed a level of a game or something similar, as you can also see here, after the user solved one puzzle, he can, not all the time, but sometimes see an interstitial. And another ad format are rewarded ads. These ads are usually not as badly received by the users because there's a clear value exchange that takes place. So the user makes a conscious decision to view the ad because he gets either extra credit, coins, lives, or other in-app rewards. And the ad in return, of course, gets impressions. So here you can see our implementation of a rewarded video. When a user completes a level, he can double his coins after with a rewarded video. And there are certainly better and worse performing rewarded video placement. For example, in one of our other games, Quiz Planet, we have a rewarded video placement when you gave a wrong answer to a quiz question, so you can have a second chance. And this option is used by most users, so it's a really good performing rewarded video placement. So you should always think about what is really valuable to your user in your app. Another advertising format in our game, which is yet not so widespread, are app open ads. Those are kind of a special ad format on app loading screens, and they can be closed at any time. And they're shown just when the user brings the app to the foreground. And last but not least, another ad format are native ads. These are not necessarily recognizable as ads at first glance because they integrate seamlessly into your app. So you can style the ad containers according to your app design. And the example you can see here of our app is a bit older because currently we don't have any native ads in our app anymore, but it illustrates quite well that an ad can just look like a normal app dialog. Now let's take a look at how to integrate such ads into your app. So to display advertising in your app, you need a so-called mobile ad network. And this is the link between the app developers who provide ad space in their app and the advertisers who want to display ads for their product. And a relatively well-known ad network would be Google AdMob, but there are many others like the Facebook Audience Network, Fiverr, Unity, AppLovin, AdColony, and many more. But if you don't want to integrate only one ad network into your app, you probably want to use a mediation provider. So what is that? A mediation provider communicates with different ad networks. So there are different mechanics which ads are displayed, but more about that a bit later. So technically the whole thing would look like this. You have a mediation provider, for example, Google Mobile Ads, that is integrated directly into your Flutter app. And then on the native part of your app, you would integrate the different ad networks, which communicate then with the advertisers and display the ads. There are basically two different mechanics for selecting which ads of which ad networks are displayed, and they're called waterfall and bidding. And now we're going to take a closer look at these two. So for the waterfall approach, you have to set your own order in which the ad networks are offered ad space. So here you can see a simplified representation of the whole process. So an ad space is offered to one advertising network for a certain price. And if the ad network does not want that ad space, then the next ad network is contacted. And the prices are defined beforehand, so you have to do that by yourself. In contrast to that, in bidding, several ad networks are requested at the same time, and the highest bid wins. So here you can also see a simplified representation of the bidding process. So in this case, the mediation provider would request 4 ad networks at the same time. And in this case, the Facebook Audience Network would get the ad space because it pays the most. And yes, enough about that. Now let's see the basic procedure of using a mediation provider in your app. So we use Google AdMob as an example because we use that ourselves. And Google AdMob is a mobile advising daughter of company of Google. And it is both an ad network and a mediation provider. And more than 1 million apps use AdMob, so it's really common. So how to get started? After creating an AdMob account, of course, you can then create ad units for the different ad formats that you want to integrate into your app. For example, banner, interstitials, rewarded videos, everything we heard before. And next, you can set up mediation groups in AdMob to group the ad networks that you want to mediate. And then last, you can define the ad sources, so either bidding or waterfall, and the waterfall order in which the ad networks should be called. So how to add that to your Flutter app? To add it to your Flutter app, you have to add the Google Mobile Ads plugin to your pubspec YAML file and then run flutter pub-get as usual to install the package. And next, you want to ensure that you have the app ID and the ad unit IDs ready for each format that you want to use in your app. Then you can initialize the Google Mobile Ads SDK in your Flutter app. And after that, implement the loading of ads using also the Google Mobile Ads plugin. And depending on the ad format, you'll also need to create ad widgets or dialogues to display the ads in your app, of course. And last but not least, it's important that you add the necessary mediation adapters of the ad networks that you want to mediate through AdMob. For example, here you can see Facebook Audience Network and Unity. And for Android, you would add that to your build Gradle, and for iOS in your pod file. So when talking about advertising, it is also really important to respect the privacy of your users. And there are 2 important user privacy frameworks that are called GDPR for European countries and CCPA for California. So in these regions, personalized ads must be off by default, but can be opted in by the user. And with most mediation provider and ad networks, you can make these privacy settings whether personalized ads should be displayed or not. And additionally, on iOS, you have to use the ATT framework since iOS 14 to request the user authorization to access app-related data for tracking the user or the device. So you also should respect that. Now, back to our app. Here you can see how the ad revenue is divided in our game for Pix1Word. So as you can see, we make most of our revenue with interstitials and rewarded videos. And we actually only recently added banners to our app. And what we tried to do when we added banners was to reduce the frequency of interstitials, because that's the most intrusive ad format we have in our app for our users. So we're always trying to find a good balance there for our users. And since our goal is that users are playing our game as long as possible, we try to provide the users the best experience. That's why we set some ad standards that ad networks must comply with. So in our app, the ads should not have any inappropriate content like politics or violence. And there should always be a visible close button to close the ad. And the ads should be muted by default and skippable after a certain amount of time. And also there should not be an automatic redirect to the App Store or the Play Store or something like that. So we only work with ad networks that comply with these standards. And we also have a process in place to validate the ad quality all the time. So now you have learned how to monetize your app with in-app purchases and advertising, but just as importantly, maybe you want to advertise your ad to your app, difficult, to get more users into your app. So Jojo will now explain what you need to consider for that.
Yes, at first I want to take a look at the relevant metrics that you should take into consideration when you're optimizing your ad revenue. The first metrics that you want to look at is CPI, or cost per install, which is a key value when you want to analyze the performance of your marketing campaigns. You will always try to optimize your marketing assets and the targeted audiences to achieve the lowest cost per install that you can get. The next metric is called eCPM, or effective cost per 1,000 ad impressions. You will also find the alternative term CPI, which just means cost per install. And this metric is very important for you if you want to optimize the delivery of advertising in your app. You can improve this value by running tests to figure out the optimal ad placements and also the interstitial frequency, for example. Because also loading the ad as late as possible can improve your cost per ad impression, because the ad network rewards you if all the requested ads are really displayed to the user and you're not preloading something that never gets displayed. So you should try to postpone the loading of apps as long as possible to really get the best revenue eCPM values out of your campaigns. Another metric that gives you a good measure how your users are performing is ARPDAU, which is the term for average revenue per daily active user. And this will give you a number how much you earn on an average with each user with advertising and in-app purchases. And the last metric that is interesting is the LTV, or lifetime value of the user. That means how much you earn on average from a single user over a specific period of time, because the user will stay a long time, hopefully, in your app, and maybe it will only monetize after a certain amount of time. And this period is often 180 days that you take into consideration, but there are also LTV calculations that take more the focus of 1 year. The most important metric for us to analyze the performance of marketing campaigns has become ROAS, and this is the abbreviation for return on ad spend. ROAS represents the ratio of the total revenue that you gain from your users that installed your app to how costly it was to get the users to install the app in the first place using a marketing campaign or something like that. What you want to achieve here is that you're able to run ROAS positive marketing campaigns, which means that you gain more revenue from each user that you have spent for getting them into the app. This brings you in the position that you can run marketing campaigns at a large scale to bring new users into your app, because each user brings you more revenue that you have spent for them. On ROAS, you can either optimize by bringing up the revenue that you gain by providing more in-app purchases, more valuable products, or you can also try to reduce lower the cost for each install that you pay for a user. For analyzing ROAS campaigns, you often do a projection of the expected lifetime value after 30 days, because you don't want to wait the whole 180 days to determine the success of a marketing campaign, because then it's probably too late to get a shift on it. And here it is always good to take some historical reference data into account to get a valid estimation. So a lot of our BI estimations are going in this direction, that we have really good models to project our lifetime value that we have after a certain amount of time. One number that is really interesting is that only 67% of the developers or marketeers, they don't really know about the return on the mobile investments. So there's definitely room for improvement, which means that most of you or most of them, they don't really know how effective the marketing campaign really are, and they cannot fully optimize the marketing budgets to that amount. And this is where mobile attribution comes into play. And maybe you also know this topic under the alternative term, which is called mobile measurement. And mobile attribution gives you the insights about how your mobile marketing campaign is performing by tracking impressions of the advertising campaign itself, identifying the source of app installations, and tracking user engagement with in-app events like shares and spending of coins, and also gather all the combined revenue of in-app purchases and advertising in one source of truth. Luckily, you do not have to implement the gathering and this consolidation of data on your own. There are several good platforms out there that have you covered on that and provide a mobile attribution solution for you. Just to name of one of the most important ones, there's AppsFlyer, then there's Singular, which is the mobile attribution partner that we use in our app. And there's also Edges, which also provides a very excellent solution for that, and Kochava, but just to name a few of them which are out there. And let's take a look now how this mobile attribution works in principle. First, you will probably set up campaigns for your favorite advertising network to advertise your app in other apps. Singular has a lot of integrations ready to load all the performance data that you need for app impressions, app installations from your advertising partners into Singular. When the user then clicks on the ad and installs the app from the Google Play or App Store, this information will also automatically be gathered and sent to Singular. While the user is continuing to use the app and sees, for example, advertising purchases into app products or performs other relevant events on your app, all this information is sent to the Singular using their SDK. They only have an SDK on the native side, but can easily bridge that with a method channel to do the communication, the transport of all those events to the native side. Singular then correlates all this data to give you a clear number how much you spend and how much you gain from your users. And all that reflects how good your marketing campaign was performing to really attract users to come into your app. And you can optimize on those numbers to really gain the best insights, how you can provide more valuable products and more valuable subscriptions in your app to really improve that number to be in the end possible, or be in the situation where you can run ROAS positive campaigns, which is what all the big gaming studios are aiming for, because then you are in a very good position to really make a lot of advertisement in other apps to make your app more popular. So this was our overview, and thank you. I hope there were some helpful insights for you that we could share. So if you have any question, I think we are quite good on time and have 5 minutes to go. So yeah, really here to ask them.